Aretha Pearson Jones was a former well-known caterer from Atkins, Arkansas. Miss Jones catered parties, weddings, and many special occasions, both locally and nationally. Her passion for cooking began at an early age, when as a child, she refused to work in the hot sun on the family farm. As the story goes, her father gave her the choice of working in the field or preparing food for the family. She chose preparing food for the family, and the rest is history. Little did she know that her choice would lead to catering events for over 40 years and ultimately developing and perfecting her own brand. She created signature punch and mint tea beverages that were highly sought after and could be identified by its distinct color and sweet aroma, inspired by simple ingredients from the family farm. Aretha passed on the recipe to her granddaughter Jacinda, and her signature beverages are still made the same way she prepared them decades ago, with heart and soul. This is a story of faith, food, family, and friends, the making of Aretha's Beverages.
Okay, I'm Marilyn Polite. I was the firstborn.
My name is Eartha Daniel. I'm the youngest daughter of Aretha P. Jones and William Jones.
I am Janae Natasha Jones Langford. I am the granddaughter of Aretha P. Jones. I am the daughter of her only son, Lonnie William Jones.
I'm Ivory Lee Roper. My connection with Mrs. Aretha Jones is I married her daughter, Annette.
Hello, my name is Kristen Lewis, and I am connected to Miss Aretha Jones by being her grand niece.
My name is Natalie Griffin, and I am the youngest grandchild of Aretha Jones.
William Greenfield. Jacinda is my wife's cousin, and Aretha Jones is a great aunt.
I'm Lottie Shackelford. I'm actually a native of Little Rock, Arkansas. Born and reared here, went to high school here, raised my family here, and I still live here.
I'm Mary Wilgen, friend of Aretha Jones from the late 1970s, early 80s.
My name is Lillian Springer.
Okay, my name is Loretta Lever.
Right. My name is Marion Humphrey.
Miss Thurston B. Lamb.
My name is Monica Creighton. I am a crafter of Aretha's Beverages.
Well, my name is Rodney Slater, and I knew Mrs. Jones really in a number of ways. First, as a dedicated member of Bethel AME Church in Little Rock, Arkansas, and also most especially as a connoisseur of fine foods.
My name is Jacinda Jones, and I am the granddaughter of the late Aretha Pearson Jones.
I met Mrs. Jones when my oldest son was in Granite Mountain Elementary School, which is just across the street from our home. And I went over that morning, and on the way out, I kept smelling something, and I asked one of the teachers what was that I was smelling, and she introduced me to that cafeteria, and I found that there were the most wonderful cinnamon rolls that she had made for lunch, and I asked the lady, where does she live? Did she teacher here? She said, no, she lives just across the street. And so I thanked her, and then I left out and went to get in my car, and I saw Mrs. Jones working in her yard. And I walked across, and made myself known to her. And we became friends at that particular time.
And for 18 years, I served as a Pulaski County Circuit Court judge. And I have known Mrs. Jones most of the time that I knew or was in Little Rock when I first moved here back in 1984. Not long after that, I got to know Mrs. Jones.
Think of that. I was looking for someone for a to cook for my catering company that was nascent in those days. And somehow someone gave me the name of Aretha Jones. She also did some catering and some cooking. And unlike most employers' employees, that the employer teaches the employee what she wants, Aretha was kind enough to take me under her wing because she knew a lot more about a lot more things than I did in those days. So we had a wonderful on that camera. We had so much fun. We did Bill Clinton's first inaugural ball in 1979 at the Armory, and we had punch, fruit, and cheese. That's all we had, but it was darn lots of it. It was very nicely arranged. But I've loved Aretha for so many years. I still think about her so fondly and so grateful I had that opportunity. I was lucky. Sometimes you say your guardian angel takes care of things. Yeah.
And my acquaintance with Mrs. Jones probably go back to the 90s. I remember that I go visit her and she prepare food. And that was probably why I was going over there. I wanted to see her, but I wanted to eat too, right? But, sitting down, eating pancakes. And I love, eating pancakes and sitting down laughing and talking.
So a few years ago, my wife and I were having a get together. We were going to have some friends over and we needed a caterer. And so she mentioned that her cousin Jacinda had a catering business and that was the type of work that she had done. And in fact, Aretha Jones was a caterer in the family, and I'd hear these stories about rolls and lemon tarts. That was the first introduction that I had to the Aretha Jones cooking legacy.
Well, she was a deep woman of deep faith, loved the Lord, loved humankind, and was willing to do what she could to help the underprivileged, not only as a member of Bethel, but for the community. A deep, abiding faith. And I will always remember that about her.
Well, on Sunday morning, she had her beautiful hat on. She had on her beautiful dress and her little heels, and she dressed up. And there were times when she mingled with everybody else, though she was not doing a catering situation. No matter what was going on, what they were going to go to church. And they were involved in what was happening within the church. Everybody was at Sunday school, or if somebody that could sing was in the choir. Her children had beautiful voices.
Well, first of all, I go back to Bethel just because it was such a, and is such a wonderful place. Reverend Tolfrey and Betty, the pastor and first lady now, they were just members in the pew like so many of us, young members, really trying to grow into adulthood, starting our careers. And to be able to look around that church and to see Reverend Young, but then to see individuals like Mrs. Jones, to just be touched by her just graciousness and warmth, and to then have the pleasure of having those wonderful moments many times after service to go back to the fellowship hall and to continue the worship in a special way of just enjoying the community of one another, but to then taste her delicious food. And as I've said, to see her just take joy in people enjoying what she had prepared. And you knew that it was the result of a labor of love. But the interesting thing here is that I think she saw her cooking and her service to others in that way as really her ministry. I believe that she really saw herself as being an instrument of the Lord in every little turn of the dough, every little stir of the pot, every little piece of dessert that was just right and placed on the tray just so artistically. I think that she saw that as really a manifestation of a gift that she'd been blessed with, and for her to see our joy and to experience our love for what she had prepared was like, it was almost like a religious experience in many respects. It was like knowing that, my gifts have value, that they actually serve to enhance the value and the lives of others. What else could you ask for?
Yeah, one of the most fond memories in the catering business that I remember is when she had a wedding and as the cake was being transported, kind of lost a part of the cake, and Mom would get upset, and I said, no, I got it. We didn't have modern day SUVs and that, we had station wagon, and so, but Mom always carried extra frosting and toothpicks.
I have many wonderful memories of my grand aunt, and they all evolve around her cooking. And first of all, let me say that my aunt, she was lovingly referred to as Aunt Aretha, and my Aunt Aretha, she was a pillar of strength for our family. She was a very strong woman of God. She was an amazing, amazing, amazing person. She had a loving and wonderful spirit. She was always standing there welcoming her family and her friends with love and open arms. And that was one of the things that I could always anticipate and depend upon whenever I knew that I was going to visit with, see, or experience, the cooking of an Aretha.
Like Governor Clinton and our First Lady Hillary Clinton being so appreciative of Mrs. Jones and her services as a caterer, and I think from time to time having their special orders here and there, and sending security or members of the staff to pick it up and then enjoying it, and making sure that she understood how much they appreciated it with a nice personally written letter or a call or something like that to just say thank you.
Well, I met Miss Jones either in the late 60s or early 70s. And at that time, when we had social occasions, either at school for PTA projects or for our churches, it was a big thing in our community to have what we call teas. And you would serve, if it was in the winter time or fall, you served hot tea. If it was in the spring or summer, you served iced tea. But you also had cookies and nuts and mix. And Mrs. Jones at that time was making cookies. And these were these wonderful buttery cookies that would just melt in your mouth. And they were small bite-sized cookies. Some would be round with little rosettes of a frosting on them, and you pop them in your mouth, or some were. What she did, that was a breakthrough for a Black woman to start your own business. That was a breakthrough. And so what Jacinda them are doing is the same thing. It's still a breakthrough for Black women to start a business and then put the love and the desire and the commitment and the work ethic into it. And I see them following her footsteps tremendously like that.
Oh man, I have so many memories, but I would say my most vivid ones are from when I was in late elementary, probably like 8 years old to maybe about 11. And I would spend so much time at my grandmother's house with her after school. And I would look forward to like spending the night with her on the weekends, and us, even sometimes just her and I having dinner together, that she always cooked, of course. And spending time like on the weekend, Saturday morning, waking up to just delicious breakfast every time, and just always feeling special, you know, whether it was just me and her or when, you know, the family was over there spending time with her. But definitely those times where she and I would spend time together on the weekend after school. I loved that.
I got to know her because she was recommended to us. We sometimes had dinner parties at our home, and of course, we called Mrs. Jones. We wanted her special touch. We wanted her tender love and care in our food. We knew that she was a very professional lady, that she was one who would be timely, and she would have the taste that we wanted. My wife is very particular. My wife herself has a master's degree in home economics, and so she liked the taste of Mrs. Jones's food. She liked its preparation. She liked its appearance, and she liked Mrs. Jones, as I did.
You know, when I was regional fair share director of the national NAACP, then I would do shows with bringing Tom Joyner into Little Rock and bringing him in. Of course, you know, we had to do catering and everything like that. Then she, you know, was my caterer. You know, so we could feed, because I know it was going to have wonderful, delicious, awesome food, you know, and they loved it. And so, you know, you think about those kind of things. And then you think about when, you know, I did events for the National NAACP, and I would be doing big receptions and things of that nature. Then, of course, I wanted her to be a part of that. And she was a part of it. And when I brought entertainers in, then she was going to be my choice for, you know, because, you know, they're all figurative and they need this kind of food. They want this, and that. And then I was like, you can't go wrong if you're eating Miss Jones food, right?
I also remember one special time when Cassandra and I, my wife, Cassandra, we were participating in her family's holiday dinner. And so the thought was, we can do better than try to prepare this ourselves. Let's talk to Mrs. Aretha Jones and see if she, you know, even in this busy season, might have an opportunity to prepare a little bit for us. And so we went sort of expecting that she might be able to maybe do, you know, a dessert or something like that. And she said, look, she said, I'll prepare just a full meal. And number one, we felt some sense of relief. And number two, we felt so appreciative. But what I really want to say is, so we take it to Pine Bluff, we lay it out on the table, and it's so beautiful and it looks so inviting to the taste. And then we start to enjoy it with the family, and everyone sort of recognizes that you guys did not cook this. And so we fessed up and gave credit and honor to one to whom honor is due, Mrs. Aretha Jones. And it was just a wonderful time. You know, I hate to say it like this, but starting with the rose was almost like starting with the dessert. I just remember that as a special kind of feast. But
she could take a piece of beef, big hunk of beef, and she would pepper and Worcestershire it with, I don't know, she rubbed it with love, honey. When that came out of the oven, it was succulent. And I like my beef rare when I do have beef, but I have never been able to duplicate what Aretha did. There's some things she just could do better than anybody else.
One of my favorite memories of my grandmother while working with her in the catering business was when there was an event happening, and there were about 200 people at this dinner event.
Normally we fix up for more people than the contract would call for.
And all of a sudden, an extra 50 plus people were a part of this event. And she only had food for the 200, and a little over. And I was ready to go out to the lady who had hired my grandmother for the event to kind of, gently say to her, ma'am, I mean, you want us to make some things happen with a count that was not privy to us, And my grandmother grabbed my arm. I was on my way. She grabbed my arm to know we're going to work this out.
One of the main things that they wanted was shrimp and the shrimp sauce. And we were running low on that.
And literally, my grandmother opened up the refrigerator at this event site. And next thing I know, she's making dressing out of things that were left in this refrigerator. And I'm just watching her, and then she's cutting, I believe the menu was Cornish hen. And before I knew it, she's splitting these Cornish hens. She had created enough for 75 people. I'm not saying she's Jesus, but she did some things, and
the hostess, when it was all said and done, she came back, she was so overjoyed at what we had done, and it really tickled me because when my mother-in-law said, "Oh, don't worry about that, we'll take care of it." Well, I knew she had a plan in mind, and it turned out extremely well.
And that moment has always stuck in my mind about how awesome, she was and how gifted she was. And she could see things that, the average person couldn't.
Just, you name it, she did it. She was a scratch person. She cooked everything from scratch. No cake mixes, no fake pie crust. Everything was just from scratch. And that was just one of her things that she did. I think when she did the event at the governor's mansion, that was really special for her, for all of us really. And it was just something that I'll always remember. And it was just special. The people were nice there, and she was nice, and the food was good, and she just loved it. And my mom always liked it. When she was happy, she smiled a lot, and she just enjoyed making people smile. And she just had that type of personality. She was real genuine with it, and her smile was one of her real attributes.
And throughout the years from 2004 going forward, people loved the food. However, there were times where there were more people gathered around the beverage station than the food. Do I feel offended? No. But happy in the same sense that people were reminiscing about, like, I remember this drink. And so I was hearing stories about who, they were asking, who made this? So they were seeking out who was making this beverage because it reminded them of another event or a moment in their life where this beverage was a part of. And, over a period of time, people would call, hey, can I get a gallon? When's your next event? I'll be there, meet them in the back door with a gallon of the beverage. And that went on for several years. And then one day, just decided to bottle them up, take them to the farmer's market here in Little Rock, local farmer's market, and bottle some stuff up and didn't think we were going to sell anything. And we did. We sold out. And we went to the farmer's market a few more times consecutively, and we had to stop because we had a catered event. So we didn't make it one Saturday at the farmer's market. And the manager of the farmer's market called and said, hey, people looking for y'all. You going to be here next week? It's like, oh, maybe we have something. And so it just started developing and it just started growing and, but the part I cherish the most is that people had a moment to remember something when they tasted her beverages. They were sharing stories that took them back. And we all need moments that take us back and a happier place, you know, in our life. And so that was You have to understand, my grandmother came from a little small town in Atkins, Arkansas, and she had to create things. She was told as a little girl, you have to work on the family farm, they were sharecroppers, or you have to come in the kitchen and feed the people that's working on the farm. She decided to, at 12, to work in the kitchen. So in creating and doing things in the kitchen at the age of 12 in a little small town outside of Atkins, really, that's known as the Bottoms, they had nothing. They literally had nothing. But yet her mother had, you know, instilled in her to create something. Make those people who work hard all day out on that farm, make them feel special when they come in at the end of the day. So they took what the earth, what Mother Nature gave them and created things. So, all right, so currently, I do say currently, because there are still other flavors within inside of us that need to be created and shared with the world, so it's coming. Currently we have 3 flavors, and they are the sweet mint tea, the strawberry lemonade with the basil, and the spice jar punch. All 3 really do have their own essence. They create their own essence, own feel. And I can say the sweet mint tea, a lot of people always say sweet mint tea reminds them of summertime. And the strawberry lemonade with basil, spring, and our spice jar punch. Many people relate to fall and winter. So, so yeah, those three flavors kind of can go throughout the year. My favorite beverage out of the 3 would probably be the mint, the Aretha sweet mint tea. And that is because of a memory that I have of my grandmother making it with her. She actually had a patch of fresh mint always growing outside of her home. And so she would always say, some of y'all go out there, and it could be one person in the house, but she'll still say, some of y'all, go outside and give me some mint, get her the mint. So being in that moment of watching her, getting the mint, seeing her create something that was so refreshing, that was, you know, I have a connection to that particular one.
Of course, the sweet mint tea. And that's because growing up, Mom never drank coffee or anything. We always drink tea. And so I would have tea with her. And in the backyard, she was growing the mint. And she said, oh, we have to put the mint in it. And so I like the sweet mint better, of course.
I like all 3 equally. The spice jar punch, the mint tea, and the strawberry basil lemonade. The spice jar punch is really special because she took the ingredients for that flavor. It was something that she made up herself. It was a lot of spices, and she took a jar, a big gallon jar, and she would put the spices in there, and then she would let it ferment for days outside in our little shed, more or less. It was a little storage room, and it was sit there in the dark, and it was just something that she made up herself, and she got that flavor for that spice jar punch. And the mint tea with the fresh mint, it was just something special about that tea. That taste it just grabs you when you first drink it. It's so good. And then the strawberry basil lemonade, the basil was just something that's special about it, and just those tastes and all those flavors coming together makes it all just a really enjoyable drink.
All of them.
This sweet tea with mint, that is my favorite. That's the one that she introduced us to, and that is the one that I still like. It's original, it's unique, and it's very good.
I would say that, you know, the punch, you know, I love because it was different. It wasn't just your Hawaiian punch. It was a special punch. It had spice. It had kick to it. And I loved the kick that it had to it. So, of course, you know, I'm going to be drinking it over and over and over. I'm like everybody else. This is delicious. Stand right there. Don't miss your spot. Get another cup and another one. You know, that was me.
I love, my favorite beverage is Aretha sweet mint tea. I've always loved sweet tea. And with that mint, it just makes it so wonderful and just so like yummy to your tummy. So that is my favorite, Aretha Sweet Mint Tea.
The mint punch was great for me. Now, others talked about the other ones, but the mint punch was great. She did a wonderful job at putting the mint punch together.
My favorite drink would probably be, and this is hard because they all taste so good, but my favorite one is probably the Spice Jar Punch, just because I think of it as like an original flavor of like, when I drink it, it makes me think like back to those times being with my grandmother and like holidays and always looking forward to having some of that drink. So that one like brings back the most memories. It's just a classic. So that's my favorite one.
Well, out of all of the beverages, there is one that is made with mint, and it's called a mint tea. When she first taught me how to make that, I fell in love with it to the point to where I started growing organic mint at my home. And although all the other beverages are delicious, there's no two ways about that, I am still hooked on that mint tea.
When I drink the Spice Jar Punch, it always takes me back to Grandma and Grandpa's porch, and that's something that we always kind of say when we're introducing the beverage company. But it's nostalgic. It brings back. It takes me back to just being with my grandparents in the country, and so I think that when people taste the beverages, a lot of people always say that one thing about the Spice Jar Punch, that it reminds them of something that their grandmothers used to make. And so I think that people like the taste. It's consistent, it's good stuff, it's quality stuff. We're using fresh ingredients, going all the way back to Mrs. Jones and how she would make the beverages and her food using what Mother Nature had to offer. So I think it's definitely the taste. And of course, the service, the customer service. Mrs. Jones I always hear the stories of how she would do these little cakes and things for people. And so Jacinda has kind of taken that on. And so sometimes, you might order one little thing and it's probably just how her grandmother was. You're going to get something extra. And so
It was made with love. Love conquers all. And she made her punch as well as her food with a deep love for humankind. And once you drink it, you want to get some more.
I think because with the nostalgia of the drink, and I know in today's society, in today's world, everyone is so used to, artificial flavors, but it has a natural flavor, it has a natural twist, and it just looks so pretty in the bottle, and you want to pick it up when you see it. And I think because my sister, when she created it, it brought a new generation in. So people would be like, oh, okay, this is a new black entrepreneur, we will try it. And then they end up loving it. And then she tells the story. So that's why people, they love the story and they love the beverage as well. So that's why I think it's still relevant today.
Of course, that sweet mint tea, I would think that most people who've tried that tea, they've also tried to make it, but never got it just right. And it was one of my favorites because you could serve it hot or you could have it cold. So it's still one of my favorites.
What does it feel like? It feels like it's an honor. It is really an honor to be able to continue creating things almost like her. I'm not her, so there might be some missing components to some things, but I feel like her spirit is up on us as we go through this journey of
Is to follow your dream. Follow your dream, and it doesn't mean there's going to be smooth sailing all the time, but follow your dream. I think one of the things that young people probably make, particularly in this day and time, because so many things we do, it's almost done with the expectation of instant gratification. But life doesn't work that way. in reality. It takes time, you have to build, you have to be patient, you have to persevere, and for her to just keep that up. If this is your passion, then don't let it go. Just keep on and you will reach the top of that mountain. Who would have thought years ago when I was popping one of those buttery cookies in my mouth that, you know, here so many, many years later, you know, we're talking 60 years later or so, that now her beverages would be the thing that people can't wait to get a taste of. Because back then it was the cookies. Now it's the beverage. And I think that's a good thing, a good thing.
It's also good when we can tie what we want to do with someone or something that's very dear to us. That just almost seals the deal, because that means that when it's tough, you're going to be resilient. When you know times are lean, you're going to remain determined, and you're going to exercise the kind of grit that's necessary to really produce at the end of the day. Continue to remember that when the Bible talks about leaving something for not only the next generation, but the generation after the next, that's what she's been given through the life and service of her grandmother.
I would say to Jacinda to first of all know that you have been called for a time such as this, and the work of your hands will be blessed. So continue doing what you know that God has called you to do with the blessing of Aretha and your entire family. And it is my prayer that the entire world will come to know your beverages, because they're now yours, and that you will reap all the benefits, success, and blessings from this venture.
Gonna take you back, yeah, to a taste that's simple and sweet. Aretha's beverages, yeah, beverage that'll take you back to a simple life, yeah, to a porch life that's so nice. Gonna take you back, yeah, let Aretha take you back.